It was supposed to be just another quiet morning in the life of billionaire tech mogul Daniel Rivers, the kind where the world bends to your will, chauffeured cars, private jets, and media headlines following your every move. But that morning, his entire world shifted. His wife, Elena, a woman known not just for her beauty, but for her quiet grace and fierce loyalty, vanished without a trace. One moment she was in their sprawling mansion overlooking the city, and the next, gone. No signs of struggle. No note, no leads, just silence. For days, then weeks, the media swarmed the story. Billionaire's wife disappears without a clue. Rumors exploded. Affairs, kidnappings, secret pasts. Daniel, usually composed and calculated, became consumed by the search. He poured millions into private investigators, hacked into surveillance systems, even put out a reward big enough to tempt the unthinkable. But every lead ended the same way, nowhere. Friends whispered behind closed doors, questioning everything. Was their picture-perfect marriage really as flawless as it looked? Had Elena simply run away from the golden cage her life had become? Or was something much darker hiding behind those locked mansion doors? Daniel refused to believe she had left him willingly. He knew her better than anyone, also, he thought. 3 long months passed. The story began to fade from headlines. People moved on, but Daniel didn't. He couldn't. He kept digging, chasing whispers that made no sense. Until one random afternoon, in a small town hours away from the city, something happened. A close friend on a business trip texted Daniel a blurry photo. It was taken at a roadside diner, nothing fancy. In the background, almost hidden behind trays of coffee and plates of fries, stood a woman. Messy ponytail, faded jeans, no makeup. But Daniel knew that face. It was Elena, his wife. Alive, working as a waitress. Why would the wife of a billionaire vanish without a word, only to reappear in the most unlikely place, pretending to be someone else? Was she hiding from something or someone? And more importantly, why didn't she come back? Daniel got in his car that same day and drove straight to the diner. But nothing could have prepared him for what she said when their eyes finally met again across the counter. And that is where this story truly begins. Daniel stood frozen at the entrance of the diner, his heart pounding louder than the chatter and clinking dishes around him. The woman behind the counter looked up, and for a split second her eyes met his. There was a flicker of recognition, a flash of something raw and scared, but then it vanished. She turned away like she hadn't seen him, like he was just another customer. It didn't make sense. She was his wife, the woman he'd built an entire life with, and now she was wiping tables and pouring coffee for strangers like she didn't know him. He walked toward her slowly, trying not to cause a scene, trying to keep himself together. Up close, she looked different, thinner, paler, tired in a way that went beyond lack of sleep. She didn't look like the woman who once wore designer gowns and smiled for magazine covers. But it was her, no doubt about it. "Elena," he said, barely above a whisper. She paused, her back turned. A slow, shaky breath left her lips before she turned to face him again. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly, eyes darting around the room. Daniel blinked. "What are you talking about? I've been searching for you for months. What is going on? Why are you here?" She didn't answer. Instead, she motioned for him to sit at a corner booth, away from the other customers. Her hands trembled as she poured him a glass of water. He could tell she was nervous, no, terrified. Of what, though? Him? Someone else? The place? As they sat across from each other, Daniel couldn't stop staring. 1,000 questions screamed inside his head, but her presence silenced them all. She looked like she wanted to speak, like words were choking in her throat, but she just shook her head. "I had to disappear," she said finally. "You don't understand. If I had stayed, something bad would have happened." He leaned in, his voice firm but soft. "To you? To us? Who's threatening you, Elena? Tell me." She looked away. "It's not that simple." But Daniel wasn't buying it. You could have told me. You know I would have done anything, move heaven and earth for you. She glanced around nervously again, lowering her voice. I didn't have a choice. You were in danger too. I had to make it look like I was gone. Like I left everything behind. Please, just leave. You showing up here, it could ruin everything. Before he could ask another question, a man in a dark jacket stepped through the diner door. Elena's face went pale. She stood up so fast, she nearly knocked over the water. You have to go. Now. And just like that, the fear in her eyes told Daniel one thing. This was far from over. Daniel didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on Elena as she backed away, clearly shaken. The man who had just entered the diner stood near the door, scanning the room slowly like he was looking for someone. He didn't seem like a local. He was dressed too clean, too deliberate. Daniel knew that look. Security or worse. Elena's voice snapped him back. Please, she whispered again, barely audible. You have to leave before he sees you. Daniel hesitated, but the panic in her voice made it clear. This wasn't just about hiding. This was survival. He slipped out the side door, his mind spinning. Who was that man? Why was Elena afraid of him? And why hadn't she told Daniel anything before she disappeared? Back in his car, Daniel watched the diner from a distance. He needed answers, but he couldn't push too hard. Yet, he called Marcus, his head of private security. I need eyes on this town. Quietly. And find out who's watching that diner. Don't let anyone know we're involved. As the sun dipped behind the hills, Daniel sat alone, piecing together what little he knew. Elena was alive, but clearly hiding from someone, or something, dangerous. And she was scared enough to stay hidden for 3 months, pretending to be someone she wasn't. The thought tore at him. What had she gone through? And why didn't she trust him enough to come back? The next day, Daniel returned to the town under disguise. Plain clothes, rental car, no security detail. He didn't want to scare her again. Instead of going straight to the diner, he started asking quiet questions around town. Most people knew the waitress as Ellie. She'd shown up about 10 weeks ago, said she was just passing through. No ID, paid in cash, kept to herself. But one thing stuck out. A few people had noticed a black SUV parked near the diner at odd hours. Same guy behind the wheel. Never ate, just watched. Meanwhile, Marcus sent back intel. The man at the diner was identified as Carter Voss, a former private contractor linked to some shady overseas jobs. Now he worked for a shell security firm tied to one of Daniel's biggest business rivals, Ethan Vale. That name hit hard. Vale had a long-standing grudge against Daniel after a failed merger years ago. But he was known for corporate sabotage, not stalking someone's wife. Unless Elena had discovered something bigger, something that connected Ethan Vale to something illegal or dangerous, something worth silencing her for. Daniel's gut told him this wasn't just personal, it was calculated, and now more than ever, he needed the truth, because whatever Elena was running from, it hadn't stopped chasing her. Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. Every step he took deeper into the mystery pulled him into a world far darker than he had imagined. The quiet town, the waitress who was once his wife, the shadowy man watching from a black SUV, it was all part of something bigger, something that threatened everything he thought he knew. That evening, Daniel returned to the diner, determined to talk to Elena again. He waited until the crowd thinned and the night settled in, the dim neon sign buzzing above casting eerie shadows through the windows. When Elena came out from the kitchen, she looked exhausted, her eyes scanning the parking lot nervously. I can't keep doing this, she said, voice barely steady. They're everywhere. Daniel reached out, but she pulled back. You don't understand what's at stake. If they catch me, or you, it's not just our lives. They'll destroy everything we've built. He searched her face, desperate for more. Who? What do they want? Please, Elena, I'm not leaving without answers. She hesitated, then whispered, There's something I found, a file, deep inside one of Ethan Vale's companies. Proof of illegal deals, bribery, even worse. I was trying to get it to the authorities when they found out. The pieces clicked. Elena's disappearance wasn't just about fear. It was a shield, a desperate move to protect the truth and the people she loved. Before Daniel could respond, headlights flashed outside. The black SUV pulled up slowly, engine idling ominously. Carter Voss stepped out, his eyes locked on the diner entrance. Elena froze. "We don't have much time," she urged, pulling Daniel toward the back door. "If they catch us here, it's over." They slipped into the shadows behind the building, heartbeats pounding in sync. Daniel's mind raced. The file Elena carried could ruin Ethan Vale, but if it fell into the wrong hands, it could ruin them all. Suddenly, footsteps approached fast. Daniel's grip tightened on Elena's arm as Carter appeared around the corner, his face cold and merciless. "You really thought you could hide," he said, voice low but threatening. Elena stepped forward, holding up a flash drive. "This is everything. The truth. You can't have it." Carter smirked, reaching for her, but before he could move, a car screeched to a halt nearby. Lights flashed as Marcus and Daniel's security team poured out, surrounding the area. The moment hung heavy in the air, every second stretched between danger and hope. Elena's secret was out, but was it enough? And could Daniel protect her from the storm about to break loose? The night was far from over. Just as Daniel's security team closed in on Carter, ready to detain him, the man suddenly raised his hands and smiled, a slow, chilling grin that sent a shiver down Daniel's spine. "You really think it's that simple?" Carter said, his voice calm but filled with menace. Before anyone could react, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, then pressed a button. In an instant, a sharp beep echoed from Elena's pocket. Daniel's heart stopped. "Elena," he gasped, reaching out, but she pulled away, eyes wide with fear. The flash drive, the one holding all the proof, wasn't just a key to exposing corruption. It was also a trap. Carter laughed softly. "You brought me the bait," he said, nodding toward Elena. "But did you really think the battle was over?" "No, this was just the beginning." Suddenly, the diner's front door slammed open again, and two men in black suits rushed in, moving with deadly precision. Daniel barely had time to shield Elena before the new arrivals grabbed Carter and dragged him out with